Have you ever woken up feeling like the world was just a little too heavy? Maybe the day ahead felt overwhelming, or maybe something small, like forgetting where you put your glasses, suddenly felt like a much bigger deal. If so, you're not alone. As we get older, life throws us curveballs we didn't expect. Health challenges, the loss of loved ones, or even just the feeling that the world is moving too fast. But here's the good news. Emotional resilience isn't something you're either born with or without. It's something you can build at any age. That's right. Even after 60, 70, 80 and beyond, your brain and your emotional health are still very much alive and capable of growing. And in today's video, we're going to talk about exactly how to build that kind of strength, not the muscle kind, but the kind that helps you bounce back after tough days, stay hopeful during uncertain times, and feel emotionally stronger and more grounded, no matter what life throws your way. We'll be diving into 6 powerful tips that can help you build emotional resilience, specifically designed with seniors in mind. These are not just feel-good suggestions, they're backed by science and lived experience. Some of these tips might surprise you. One in particular might feel so simple, you'll wonder why more people aren't talking about it. But when done right, it can completely transform your emotional health. Before we keep going, I'd love your help with something. If you're enjoying this video so far, comment Y below. If not, comment N. It helps me know what's working and what to improve. And don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't yet. Now let's dive deeper. Let's begin with our first tip. And this one is close to my heart. Find purpose, even in the small things. Now I know when people hear the word purpose, they think of big, dramatic goals, climbing mountains, writing novels, saving the world. But I'm talking about something much more grounded. It could be tending to your garden, calling a friend once a week, volunteering once a month, or even just feeding the neighborhood birds every morning. The key is to have something, even something small, that gets you up with a sense of direction. There was a fascinating study done by researchers at Rush University Medical Center in Chicago. They followed more than 900 older adults for several years and found that those who reported having a strong sense of purpose were significantly less likely to develop Alzheimer's disease. Isn't that amazing? Having a reason to get out of bed, no matter how simple, can actually protect your brain. But let me tell you about someone who really brought this home for me. My neighbor, Helen, lost her husband of 51 years. She went through a really dark time afterward, understandably. Everything felt gray and heavy. But after a few months, she started walking every morning and bringing a little bag of birdseed to the park. She'd sit on the same bench, rain or shine, and feed the sparrows. People started recognizing her. A little community began forming. Other walkers, dog owners, joggers would stop and chat. That simple act of feeding the birds gave her a new rhythm, a new sense of being part of something. Helen once told me, "I thought I was just feeding the birds, but really they were feeding me." That's the power of purpose. It doesn't have to be grand. It just has to be real. If you're thinking, "But I don't know what my purpose is anymore," you're not alone. It's a common feeling, especially after retiring or losing people you love. But the truth is, purpose can shift and evolve. It's not fixed. Start small. Ask yourself, what brings me even a little joy or peace? Maybe it's baking, or mentoring someone younger, or learning something new. Whatever it is, follow that thread. It might lead you to something meaningful. And here's something interesting. Neuroscientists have discovered that when we engage in purposeful activity, our brains release dopamine, a feel-good chemical that not only boosts mood, but also improves motivation and focus. It's like giving your brain a little gift every time you do something meaningful. So don't underestimate the power of having something to care about. It's not about keeping busy for the sake of being busy. It's about doing something that matters to you. And remember, what matters to you doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. If it fills your heart and gives you a sense of connection to yourself, to others, or to the world, that's enough. Now, as we move into the next part, I want you to reflect on this. What's one small thing you could do this week that gives you a little spark? Don't wait for the perfect time or the perfect idea. Just start somewhere. Because building resilience begins with feeling connected to something bigger than ourselves, even if it's just the birds at the park. In the next segment, we'll talk about something many people overlook when thinking about emotional strength, but it's absolutely essential: the role of relationships. Specifically, how to strengthen emotional bonds and create a resilient circle around you, even if you live alone. Before we begin, I want to make one thing clear. This video is for informational purposes only and is based on publicly available research. Everyone's health is different, so always consult your doctor or a qualified healthcare provider before making any changes to your lifestyle, diet, or exercise routine. Scientific knowledge is always evolving, and what works for one person may not work for another. Now let's continue. In the first part, we explored how finding even a small sense of purpose, like feeding birds or calling an old friend, can dramatically boost emotional resilience. But there's something else just as powerful, maybe even more so, and that's connection. We're social creatures. From the moment we're born, we rely on others to survive, grow, and thrive. But here's what's interesting. As we get older, our social circles often shrink. Retirement, health limitations, and sadly, the loss of loved ones can leave us feeling more isolated than we realize. And that quiet loneliness? It can be just as harmful as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. Really, according to a study published in Perspectives on Psychological Science, chronic loneliness can increase your risk of early death by 26%. It impacts heart health, brain function, and even immune response. But the good news? Just like resilience, connection is something you can build, no matter your age or living situation. And it doesn't mean you need dozens of friends or a packed calendar. Even a few meaningful relationships can act like emotional anchors, keeping you grounded when life feels stormy. I remember my Aunt Margaret. She moved into a senior community after her husband passed. She was nervous at first, unsure if she'd make new friends, unsure if she even wanted to. But one day, someone invited her to a weekly knitting circle. She didn't even knit at the time, but she went, mostly out of curiosity. Over time, those weekly gatherings became a lifeline. The ladies laughed, shared stories, supported each other through illnesses and milestones. It wasn't about knitting, it was about showing up, being seen, and sharing life's little moments together. You might be thinking, but I'm not the social type, or it's hard to make new friends at this age. And that's okay. You don't need to be the life of the party. You just need to be open to connection, in whatever form feels right for you. If you're feeling isolated right now, try this simple idea. Make one social promise a week. One phone call, one lunch date, even just a friendly chat with a neighbor. Research from the University of Chicago shows that even brief interactions with acquaintances can improve mood and feelings of belonging. You don't have to go deep every time. Small talk matters too. Another powerful strategy? Join a shared interest group, even virtually. Book clubs, walking groups, senior exercise classes, birdwatching circles, whatever lights you up. The key is shared activity. When you do something together, conversation flows more naturally, and bonds form more easily. And let's not forget family. Reaching out to children, grandchildren, siblings, yes, even if there's been distance or disagreement. Sometimes just sending a note or saying, "I'd love to catch up," can open a door you didn't expect. Emotional resilience isn't just about how strong you are, it's also about how well supported you feel. The stronger your social net, the more likely you are to bounce back after setbacks. I recently met a gentleman named Richard at a local library event. He told me something I'll never forget. He said, "I used to think resilience meant toughing it out alone, but now I realize it means having someone to call when you're not feeling tough at all." That really stuck with me. Another thing to keep in mind, connection isn't only with people. Pets can provide incredible emotional support. Caring for a dog, cat, or even a bird can bring routine, companionship, and unconditional affection. Studies from the American Heart Association have shown that pet ownership is linked to reduced stress, lower blood pressure, and improved mental health in older adults. So if you live alone or feel lonely, you're not broken. You're not doing life wrong. But you might need to rebuild or strengthen your web of connection. And that starts with one step, one conversation, one small gesture of reaching out. Now here's something you may not have considered before. Your relationship with yourself also counts. The way you talk to yourself, your inner voice, can be a source of support or a source of stress. But we'll get to that soon, because our next resilience-boosting strategy is all about self-compassion and mental framing. This is where emotional strength really takes root, inside your own mind. But before we head there, let me leave you with a question. Who is one person you could reach out to this week? Maybe someone you haven't spoken to in a while, or someone new in your community. Even writing a card to an old friend counts. Connection isn't about grand gestures. It's about showing up, again and again, with openness and heart. In the next part, we're going to dive into the mental side of resilience, how to gently train your mind to become more supportive, flexible, and hopeful, especially in challenging moments. We'll talk about self-talk, mindset shifts, and what neuroscience says about the aging brain's capacity to adapt and grow emotionally. It's powerful stuff, and it might just change the way you see yourself. So far, we've talked about finding purpose in small things and nurturing meaningful connections, two powerful tools that build emotional strength over time. But now, let's turn inward for a moment. Because no matter how full your calendar is, or how many friends you have, the truth is, the one person you'll always be with is you. And that relationship, it matters more than we often realize. Here's something you might not have heard lately. How you talk to yourself, your inner voice, can either lift you up or wear you down. It's the quiet narrator in your head that responds when things go wrong. Maybe you spill something and think, ugh, I'm so clumsy. Or you forget a name and say, my brain's just not what it used to be. Sound familiar? But here's the thing, self-talk isn't just noise. Neuroscientists have shown that your brain listens. According to research from the University of Michigan, negative self-talk can activate the same stress pathways as actual danger. In other words, being hard on yourself can keep your body in a low-grade fight or flight state. And over time, that wears you down, not just emotionally but physically too. So let's introduce our third resilience tip, practice self-compassion. That doesn't mean ignoring mistakes or pretending everything's perfect. It means treating yourself the way you would treat a dear friend. If your best friend was struggling, would you say, "You're terrible at this"? Of course not. You'd say something kind, encouraging, supportive. So why not give yourself the same grace? This shift toward self-kindness has been shown to increase resilience, lower anxiety, and even improve heart health. A study published in Health Psychology found that people who practiced self-compassion had lower levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, and were better at handling setbacks. I remember a man named Arthur who joined a storytelling class I taught a few years ago. He was in his late 70s and had always wanted to write but never believed he was smart enough. His inner critic had been loud for decades, but week by week, he started noticing that when he wrote kindly about others, he softened toward himself too. Eventually, he said, I've spent most of my life doubting myself. I think I'm ready to try trusting myself instead." That moment of self-compassion cracked open a whole new chapter in his life. He's now writing a memoir for his grandchildren. So here's a small but powerful challenge. The next time you catch yourself thinking something critical, pause. Ask, would I say this to someone I love? If not, try again with kindness. And that leads us perfectly into our fourth tip, which is deeply connected to the idea of emotional flexibility. Embrace a growth mindset. There's a common myth that as we age, we become set in our ways. But that's not entirely true. Yes, we may become more confident in what we like and don't like, but the human brain is capable of change throughout our entire lives. This is what scientists call neuroplasticity. It means your brain can form new connections, learn new things, and adapt, even into your 80s, 90s, and beyond. Dr. Carol Dweck, a researcher at Stanford University, coined the term growth mindset. The belief that abilities and intelligence can be developed through effort, learning, and persistence. And here's what's exciting. Older adults who believe they can grow and improve report better mental health and greater life satisfaction. So what does this look like in everyday life? Let's say you try a new technology, maybe a smartphone or video calling app, and you don't get it right away. A fixed mindset might say, "I'm too old for this." But a growth mindset would say, "This is new for me, and I'll figure it out with time." Or maybe you're struggling with grief or adjusting to retirement. A growth mindset doesn't ignore the pain. It says, "This is hard, but I'm learning how to move through it." That shift alone can open doors to healing. I met a woman named Clara who took up painting for the first time at age 73. Her hands shook a little, and she was nervous at first. But she told me, "Every brushstroke teaches me something." That's a growth mindset in action. And more than the paintings themselves, it's the learning, the belief in her own ability to try and evolve that gave her strength. So how do you start building this mindset? Begin by saying this simple phrase out loud when you face something challenging. I'm still learning. It's small, but it reminds your brain that effort matters more than perfection. And if you ever feel discouraged by forgetfulness or slower thinking, remember this. Older brains are often better at emotional regulation and long-term decision-making than younger ones. Your wisdom and experience are your superpowers. A slower pace isn't a weakness. It's often a sign of deeper thought and reflection. Now, if these ideas feel unfamiliar or even uncomfortable at first, that's totally okay. Growth takes time. Be patient with yourself. You're not trying to become someone new. You're just learning to see your own strength in a new light. In the final part of this video, we're going to wrap everything up with 2 final insights that bring it all together. We'll talk about how daily habits, especially those involving movement and mindfulness, play a crucial role in emotional resilience. And I'll share a surprising study that ties physical activity directly to emotional health. But for now, here's a gentle reflection. What's something new you've been curious about lately? It doesn't matter how small. Maybe it's trying yoga, or learning how to use your TV remote better, or simply reading about something you've never explored before. Let that curiosity lead you, because every step toward learning is a step toward resilience. By now, you've seen how emotional resilience isn't something you're either born with or not. It's something you build gently and steadily over time. We've talked about how finding purpose, nurturing connection, practicing self-compassion, and embracing a growth mindset can shape your emotional well-being in profound ways. But we're not done just yet. There are still 2 more keys to building resilience, and they're wonderfully within your reach. The first is deceptively simple, but often underestimated in its power. Move your body. You've probably heard it before. Exercise is good for your health. But what you may not realize is just how closely tied it is to your emotional well-being. In fact, researchers from Harvard Medical School found that regular physical activity can be just as effective as antidepressant medication for some people with mild to moderate depression. That's right. Getting your heart rate up a few times a week can literally change your brain chemistry for the better. Here's why. Physical movement boosts endorphins, those feel-good chemicals that lift your mood and reduce stress. It also increases levels of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, a protein that supports brain health and improves your ability to handle stress. But here's the best part. You don't need to train for a marathon to benefit. Just a daily walk around the block, a short session of chair yoga, gentle stretching, or even dancing in your living room to your favorite song can do wonders. I met a couple once, both in their 80s, who began doing 10-minute happy walks in their hallway every morning after breakfast. They'd play a favorite tune, shuffle along with some light arm swinging, and finish with a high five. It became their little ritual, and they both said it made their days feel brighter, more grounded. That's resilience in motion, literally. And if mobility is limited, even moving your arms, rotating your joints, or doing breathing-based movement while seated can make a difference. The goal isn't athletic performance. It's consistency and joy, which leads us to our final, beautiful tip for emotional resilience. Practice mindfulness. Now don't worry, I'm not talking about sitting cross-legged for hours in silence. Mindfulness simply means being present, paying attention to the moment you're in, without judgment. It can be as simple as savoring a sip of tea, noticing the color of the sky, listening, really listening, to the sound of a loved one's voice. And here's why this matters. When we train our minds to stay present, we reduce anxiety about the future and regret about the past. This is especially helpful during times of change, grief, or uncertainty. It helps create a calm inner space where resilience can take root. In one study published in JAMA Internal Medicine, older adults who practiced mindfulness meditation for just 8 weeks reported improved sleep, lower stress, and better emotional regulation. Another study showed that even 5 minutes a day of simple mindful breathing lowered cortisol levels significantly. So how do you start? Try this. Once a day, pause and take 3 slow, deep breaths. As you inhale, think, I am here. As you exhale, think, this moment is enough. That's it. No fancy equipment. No special training. Just you, your breath, and the moment you're living in. Some people find it helpful to keep a gratitude journal, a little notebook where you write down 3 good things each evening. Others enjoy mindful walks, where they focus on the sights and sounds around them without distraction. Whatever form it takes, mindfulness helps you build a sense of calm awareness, and that's the bedrock of emotional strength. So let's gently recap what we've explored together. You learned how a sense of purpose, even a small one, can anchor your spirit and give each day meaning. You saw how human connection, in even the simplest of forms, can be a powerful shield against loneliness and emotional decline. You discovered how self-compassion turns your inner voice into your greatest ally, and how a growth mindset opens the door to lifelong learning and flexibility. You found out that physical movement isn't just for your body, it's nourishment for your mood and resilience. And you learned how mindfulness, the quiet art of being present, offers you a steady, peaceful center in the midst of life's ups and downs. 6 tools, all gentle, all within reach. And here's what's truly beautiful, they build on each other. The more you practice one, the easier the others become, like threads woven together into a strong, supportive net. Now, if all this feels like a lot, please remember, you don't have to do it all at once. Start with one thing, one small change, one kind word to yourself, one 5-minute walk, one moment of mindful breathing. That's how resilience begins, not in leaps, but in steps. And if you ever feel discouraged, remind yourself of this. Aging is not a decline. It's a refinement, a deepening, a time of wisdom, grace, and yes, emotional strength. We'd really love to hear from you. If you have any suggestions for future topics or questions you want answered, write to us in the comments below. We're here to help, and your input could inspire our next video. And if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss out on more practical tips for healthy aging. Here's to living your best life at any age.